Welcome to Startup Secrets. Barry O'Sullivan and I continue our series in association with dtlab.ie, where we get to meet the founders of a range of exciting startup ventures and hear their stories at first hand. In this episode, we're delighted to meet Chris Kelly, the founder and CEO of TracWorx. Chris, together with two fellow UL students, founded the company in 2016 when they successfully ran a pilot project for University Hospital Limerick to help them record the movement of patients. Since then, they have built several products using AI technology, providing solutions in the supply chain management and customer tracking and tracing. Let's hear some more now. Chris, you're very welcome to Startup Secrets.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So, Chris, to open this short session, can you tell us professionally and personally, who is Chris Kelly?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Limerick. Obviously, I'm from Ballybrown, which is a little rural village, a little bit outside Limerick City. And I suppose growing up, it was all about just building cool things and in school, and that I was blessed to have a few teachers that were all about kind of, making projects and getting involved in all the, actually weirdly not the Young Scientists, but similar projects to that, such as CANSAT and SciFest, a few others like that. And I suppose all the way through school, I was big into making things, and I joined a company just after school called Emitex. So they were, I suppose, in between the transition stage, probably more of an SME than a startup, but still early enough stage company, and got to work in a very exciting product development there, and just, I suppose, caught the bug there. I was very much encouraged by my boss at the time, John Toomey, to go and pursue those things, which was a great thing. Even in the evenings, I'd started working on a small startup called Tolive, which I think I learned more from than anything else I've ever done. But it was an agricultural startup trying to analyze fields for farmers. So we were using camera technologies to try and analyze fields for farmers, tell them where they needed to fertilize more or less. And I suppose that was where my entrepreneurial journey started. Probably made more mistakes in that company than I've ever made in any exercise I've ever done. That company was closed after 6 months, which is no surprise. But along the way, I learned a significant amount about that, about the entrepreneurial journey, about products and how to develop things. And that was how, I suppose, the journey started. I met my two co-founders in that journey, Owen and Fionn, as well as a few other people we were working with at the time. But the three of us stuck together, and we decided we were going to go on and then start something else. And obviously we were in college, so we started working on just a project in the evenings around tracking our friends indoors and trying to see how we could, maybe do it over the Wi-Fi, and if there was a way to do that. And luckily we met someone in the University Hospital Limerick that pointed us in the right direction. I was like, look, I don't know about this whole tracking friends thing, but we do have a real problem with tracking our patients, and if you guys be willing to come in and help us with that, we'd love to have you in and see if we could run a pilot on it. And that I suppose was the birth of TracWorx. Then we worked off. We started off building, at the time, Pinpoint Innovations was the name of the company, and we started working with the hospital to develop that, and that was, I suppose, where TracWorx came from, and I suppose where we were born from.
I love that story about tracking friends. I think it's a fantastic genesis of where you came from. So just take it a little bit more. What is it that TracWorx does? But crucially, I suppose what we're trying to find out, where do you think it can go?
Absolutely. So it's been I think a crazy 5 years for us as a company, and I think we're not. I wouldn't say any of us were set out in a vision that we wanted to build a company. I think it was very much we were passionate about building things and making cool products. And I think the lesson we learned from Tolive when we started off was that if you can't just if you build a product that that's cool but doesn't actually service a market need, or most importantly serve a commercial need for a client, or give them a return on their investment, then no one will be able to buy that product. So I think that was where the kind of entrepreneurial element of it started. And as a company, we started off wanting to track everything. That was our goal as a company. We were doing really well in healthcare. We had a couple of hospitals in Ireland and the UK signed up to use the system. Then COVID hit. Obviously, that was a real spanner in the works. Elective surgeries were cancelled overnight, or at least the vast majority of them were, which was our main market. And we had to pivot quite quickly. So what we did was we repurposed our technology into the Bluetooth instead of Wi-Fi. And what we did was we used the same technology we were using to position people to do contact tracing for companies. So we worked with the likes of Apple TV, TG Caher, multiple film productions across Europe, as well as with some manufacturing companies like Reagicon out in Shannon, and a few others like that. And so that was the journey for us as a company. We were kind of, I think last year was one of those ones, it was what I call a scrambling year, where we were just trying to keep up with things, trying to firefight and trying to survive through the year as much as we could for the first portion of the year. But at the same time, what I really described to everyone, what last year was for us, was a reset, and it allowed us to really think about what we're passionate about. What do we really want to solve going forward as a company? And that was the birth of our new product, TracWorx.ai. And we took all of what we'd learned from the previous 4 years and said, right, what are we most passionate about? And as the blatantly naive millennial / Gen Z, I think I'm somewhere in between the two, we looked at the real problems that our generation is going to face, and that's climate change. And this is the use of plastic and other materials in the world that's causing a huge crisis for us, globally. And it's our generation and our kids' generations that are going to feel the impact of that most severely. And we wanted to think about how we could use what we've learned and what we've built to really make an impact on that. And what we've done is we've expanded our platform to support returnable packaging, allowing companies to move from that single-use plastics to something that they can reuse multiple times. But obviously the challenge of that is enormous. You have as it stands, you have a huge logistical nightmare of just trying to deliver product from your manufacturing or from raw source right through to the end customer. And now we're adding another step to that and saying, okay, everything has to now come back the other way as well. So there's a huge logistical tracking challenge within that. And also a customer engagement piece, that the relationship that you have with your customer changes significantly. And for us as a company, it's about solving those key challenges along the way, providing that full suite of digital tools that companies require, what I would call the glue between all the different stages of the process, and giving companies all of those pieces of equipment and it's digital equipment really that is going to be the nemesis, or to allow people to really grow in this market. If that makes sense.
That's very good. So, Chris, obviously you started off in agri-tech, etc. But what do you think makes a successful startup?
Yeah, I think passion and purpose, I think they're probably the two most important things. I think that, I think skills are 100% obviously important, but I think if you believe in something strong enough and you're passionate about it, when the tough days come, because they will come, that that you will stick with it, that you're relentless on what you want to do and what you want to achieve. I think within that you have to have flexibility built into it as well, that you're not too set on one type of technology, or you're not too set on your product being perfect as it is, because it's my co-founder Fionn always says he's well used to being told that his baby's ugly, and I think that's a great way of putting it, that and you got to get well used to that, I think, and get used to it quickly, because people will have issues with what you're doing or have issues with your product. I think it's very important that you're willing to change, adapt, and really make your product fit to what the market needs, rather than just doing that. But being passionate, I think, about the problem and solving that problem, and everything else, I think, just kind of feeds in from that. I think that's the key thing. I think that with any good startup, that's what they're focused on.
Thank you.
And I think that leads me to the next one, which I love the way you put passion and purpose together. I just do. I think it really is. And so that's the obvious question. What makes you passionate to do what you do? I mean, it's obviously that you are absolutely passionate, and so what is it? What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that I struggled with for a long time. Like, I think that, and I think it was only, again, and I call it the great reset of COVID, I think it was one of those things that really did help me to find my purpose. But my passion has always been building great products, and really, like, there's nothing in my job I love more than being out with customers and talking about the problem and talking about the challenges that they have, how the product can fix it. And there's no better feeling than when you can actually modify your product a little bit and be hearing back from the customer that, wow, that really, made my day way easier. I can even think of a few examples when we were working with one of our clients in contact tracing. The registration process was that you'd scan the barcode and that you'd scan the device and then clean it down. And they came and said, look, this is a really big problem for us. It's taken, we have 700 people coming into work every day and they all have to scan it. There's 700 wipes having to be used and everything. And just, we modified our product just that it was contactless, that people could walk in, they just put it in front of it and put their badge in front of it. And it saved them, I think, about 30 minutes a day in terms of in staff time, times 700, because they were not having to register every day, which was huge. And there was no queues at their doors, and all of that key piece for me is what I love, is solving those challenges and making your product really fit to what people need. But I think, like, when I sat down and started reading last year and looking into what the big problems are, I think for us as founders, we want to be solving big global problems. And that's what I think I found last year, is like, right, I actually had no idea about the sustainability crisis. I was completely naive to it until about 12 months ago, which is a terrible thing to say, but it's the truth. I was kind of so focused on my other stuff that I wasn't thinking about, which I buy a couple of bottles of water a week, what harm is that? Or I buy this and buy that. But it all adds up and becomes quite significant. And I think when you see the impact that's having globally, and you see where things are heading, and I know even watching some documentaries and some things that you'd see, and I think Seaspiracy for me was another one that really hit me, and just thinking about the volume of the problem globally and how we really have to start with ourselves and start working back from that. And that was, I think, where I found my purpose in that, is that, you know, there's all of this huge crisis in front of us, and I really want to try and at least try and make an impact on it. You know, doing it's going to be another story, but we're going to make every effort we can to have as big an impact as possible on that.
That's great. Really, I can see the purpose coming out so passionately out of you almost, if you, I think, you know, that's just fantastic. Now, the next question is probably not so good for you, but because most of our founders are a little bit older than you. So if you were to go back, for you, it's only a couple of years, but if you were to go back to when you were 15, 16, what would you write yourself as kind of a piece of advice going forward for the next couple of years to where you are today?
Absolutely. I think patience would be the one thing I'd love to just to be patient with the process and trust it. I think that's the biggest learning I've had over the few years we've had. I think, to be fair, I think even taking, and it comes back to purpose too, right? It's taking that time to actually figure out what your purpose is. And like, passion is one thing, I think purpose is another, and they go hand in hand, but they're two very different things. And I think taking the time just to actually say, right, I need to find something that is my purpose and what I'm focused on. And I think that's being patient with that. That would be one thing. I think I'm still not a very patient person. That's something I'm still trying to learn. But following that process, I think, is so important, and just taking the time to go through the steps and do it right first, rather than having to do it 4 or 5 times, if that makes sense. But yeah, patience is, I think, the one thing I'd just to trust the process, and it'll all work out. You know, that kind of way.
Fantastic, Chris. Really good advice.
That's great, Chris. I suppose on behalf of Barry and I, we sincerely thank you and everybody at TracWorx, and we wish you all the best for the future. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us on Startup Secrets, and hopefully and I'm sure we will, hear a lot more from TracWorx and beyond.
Thank you very much for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. It was great fun. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.